And among the proposals that are featured prominently, we've not probably broken down every proposal in that finance bill. And probably, as you said, as we move closer to that time, we should. But the two main highlights that have been discussed by the dailies this week has been the 5% tax imposed on mitumba and 25% on mobile phones. Now, from a young person's perspective, do you think this is the way to go? There are issues around protecting the local textile and manufacturing industry. The issues around widening the tax base to ensure even people who work in Gikomba actually contribute to the revenue collection. But there's also just plugging the budgetary deficit. Do you feel that this, which will definitely affect you as a young person, mobile phone, second-hand clothes, do you feel that this is something that needs to be talked about more?
Yes. Personally, as I had spoke earlier on, the government is coming up with high dependency rate, whereby I personally live on mitumba on a daily basis, whereby a t-shirt goes for 50 to 100 shillings. So when these tax have been imposed on mitumba, it means the price will go high. And also it will lead to unemployment. Most of these young people who are doing businesses, their stock comes from mitumba. And also what my brother had said earlier, we have no gari, we only need to use matatu or piki-piki. So when whatever is something you call basic on you, and the government is trying to do away with it, making it as a burden to you, it means it will have a problem on that. Personally, Mimi, that's the cheapest I can get a mutumba. So when it goes to 100 shillings, and when most of the youth, as you're speaking now, most of them are unemployed. And unemployment rate is very high. So we survive on these casual jobs. So we'll only have to rely on food, and we'll do away with clothing.
But don't you think that the government also has a point in trying to widen the tax base, that we've depended so much on formal employment, people with pay slips to pay taxes, that now it's time we bring in even those in informal sector, especially mutumba sellers and the likes. Don't you think that that perspective also is valid?
Yes, I must say that the government should come up with ways of also helping the young people, because most of these young people are in casual jobs. They sell mitumba, you know, they have vibandaski and all those things. I think the government should create an amicable environment for even startups, that a young person will go to a microfinance bank, they can get loans, of course at very low rates, so that they are able to start up businesses and they can even depend on themselves. And by the way, you know what happens. For example, if I start a business, for example, I have a friend in Laikipia County. His name is Ronald, and he has a company, and he's below 30. And from what I see in his company, he has only employed young people. What happens if the government enables young people to have loans to support their businesses? What happens is that it will reduce the unemployment rate. And there's a bill being introduced in Parliament called the Local Content Bill. And this bill seeks to, support the narrative, build Kenya, buy Kenya, consume Kenya. There's such a bill. And this bill seeks to, persuade the international companies coming to Kenya to actually support or to employ people, personnel from Kenya. For example, if I set up a company here and maybe I am from Rwanda or any other country, then majority of the employees must be Kenyans and majority of the raw materials must be Kenyan, you see. So I think this is something that the government should really take seriously, and the government should not sabotage efforts by the young people.
But don't you think that that is exactly what you're talking about, Komu, that by imposing taxation on mitumba, which are not produced in Kenya, that probably it will lead to the opening up or the revival of the textile industry in Kenya, that if at all you impose taxation on importation of mobile phones, that it's a potential route for investors to come to Kenya and manufacture those things locally. Because there are people who criticize the finance bill for the sake of criticizing and some of the proposals therein. Do you think that these two proposals could be potentially viable business opportunities?
Well, Fred, you know, our issue with the current regime, raising taxes or creating new taxes, is that we don't see what the finances do. Because if you look at what, for example, the other report was shared on the other day, are these the taxes that that are being introduced to finance people like Kindiki, using 3 million per day? I mean, is that what that's why we are here to say, if these taxes won't be introduced to help the people, the mwananchi, the wanjiko, let them, hatuna haja nazo. Secondly, let me say, okay, we are saying they might come in with the argument of we are raising tax on this other side so that we can create our own textile industry and Ayamke, right? But let me ask, in Kenya we grow maize, right? Is it enough? Don't we hear people maize being imported from places like even Zanzibar, the other place when the current regime came into power? There was a story that was being covered by one of your media colleagues, and they were saying they are borrowing land in Zanzibar, so that they can plant maize there. And I used to wonder, really, what the hell is going on with this? Can't we come up with a scheme of how we can plant maize here? So if they come up with that argument, really, that's baseless. Because I don't see how Mitumba will stop Kenya textile from growing. If people really need to go and buy clothes there and leave them in Tumbas, they will still go there. So that's baseless arguments. Secondly, I really don't see the current regime having mind or looking at the mwananchi with a merciful eye. Because, look, for example, you have raised the phone to 5%. And there are some other things, Fred, in that finance bill that is really arguing, like the land rates and everything, the land lease, and we shall talk of them when the time is right. Because to make pity, and we have seen, if you raise the 5% in tax, who are you affecting more? Isn't it the young people? Those people who use their phones daily for content creation and everything. So, okay, you have raised the taxes to the 5% that they are suggesting. Then what? Have you created jobs for these people? So that when you are raising something, at least put impact on it so that you can raise finances and tell those people, finance your government. We don't have an issue with financing the government because that's our government. The issue is we are paying the taxes, but we don't see where the taxes are going. Right now, we don't have any tangible project the government can show other than affordable housing. There's nothing else the current regime has done with our taxes. We just hear money being looted. 11 billion. Where are all these finances going? Hata hizi zenye zimerizua for the 4 years that have been there, the 4 financial years that have happened. Where is the finances? Are they the ones being used to send our military soldiers to hide?
Okay. You want to add something?
Yes, I beg to actually support